My car died on the shoulder of I-95 at 9 p.m., hazards blinking uselessly into the dark, and the first thing I thought was, at least Marco will never find me here. The second thing I thought was that I might not make it anywhere at all. The engine had been making that grinding sound for 2 days, ever since I'd thrown everything I owned into garbage bags and driven away from the apartment with my hand pressed to my belly like I could protect what was inside from the truth of what I'd just done. 24 weeks pregnant. Alone. $216 in my checking account, and a car that had just decided to die somewhere between Baltimore and nowhere. I sat there in the driver's seat, watching headlights blur past, each one a small universe that didn't stop. My phone was at 6%. I'd been rationing it since yesterday, afraid Marco would somehow track me through it, even though I'd already turned off location services and deleted every app that connected me to the life I'd left behind. The knock on my window made me jump so hard I bit my tongue. A man stood outside, tall and dark-haired, his face half-lit by the glow of my hazards. He was wearing a gray suit jacket over a white shirt, no tie, like he'd just come from somewhere that mattered. Behind him, a black car idled on the shoulder, expensive-looking even in the dark. I cracked the window half an inch. "You okay?" he asked. His voice was low, careful, like he knew how badly he could scare someone alone on a highway at night. "I'm fine," I lied. He looked at my car, then at me, and something shifted in his expression. Not pity. Something closer to recognition, though we'd never met. "Your engine's smoking," he said. I looked at the hood. A thin white steam was curling up from the edges. "I'll call a tow," I said, even though I didn't know how I'd pay for it. "You'll wait 3 hours minimum." He glanced back at the highway. "And it's not safe here. Let me give you a ride to the next exit. There's a diner. You can wait there." Every instinct I developed over the past 48 hours told me to say no. Don't trust anyone. Don't let anyone know where you're going. Marco had taught me that men who seemed helpful always wanted something. But my phone was dying, and I was so tired I couldn't think straight, and this man was looking at me like I was a person, not a problem. "Just to the diner," I said. He nodded and stepped back while I grabbed my purse and locked the car, leaving everything else inside. The garbage bags full of clothes. The shoebox of documents I'd stolen from Marco's office. The envelope of cash I'd found hidden in our bedroom closet. Not enough to start over, but enough to prove what he'd been doing. His car smelled like leather and something woodsy. Clean. The dashboard glowed with soft blue lights. "I'm Daniel," he said as he pulled back onto the highway. "Sophie." It came out automatically, and I regretted it immediately. I should have lied. Should have given him a fake name. "You running away from something, Sophie?" My whole body went rigid. "Why would you ask that?" He kept his eyes on the road. "Because you looked at me like I might hurt you. And your car is packed like you're not planning to go back for it." "I'm just moving," I said. "New job." At 9 p.m. with a smoking engine. I didn't answer. We drove in silence for a minute. 2. The highway stretched ahead, endless and dark, and I felt myself starting to crack open, the way you do when someone sees through your lies and doesn't punish you for them. "I left my boyfriend," I said finally. "He doesn't know I'm pregnant." I couldn't stay." Daniel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Just slightly. "Did he hurt you?" "Not the way you mean." I pressed my palm against my stomach. A habit now. "But he would have. Eventually. If I'd stayed." He nodded, and something about the way he did it made me think he understood more than he was saying. The diner appeared in the distance, a bright island in the darkness. But Daniel passed the exit. "You missed it," I said, my heart starting to race. "I know." His voice was calm. "There's a motel 2 exits up. Cheaper than calling a tow tonight, and you'll need somewhere to sleep anyway. I'll drive you there, make sure you get checked in safely, and then I'm gone. I promise." "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to." I studied his profile. Strong jaw. Tired eyes. A small scar near his temple that looked old. "Why are you helping me?" I asked. He was quiet for a long moment. "Because someone helped my sister once. When she needed it. And I wasn't there to do it myself." Something in my chest loosened. The motel was one of those places that rented by the week. Neon sign flickering, vacancy, in pink letters. Daniel parked and turned to me. "Wait here," he said. I watched through the windshield as he went inside. 5 minutes later, he came back with a keycard. "Room 114, he said, handing it to me. "Paid through Sunday. That gives you 3 days to figure out your next move." I stared at the keycard. "I can't accept this." "You can." He pulled out his wallet and handed me 3 20s. "And this is for food. The diner delivers here." "I don't even know you. I don't need you to." I took the money because I had to. Because my phone was at 3% and I had $216 and a baby growing inside me and no plan beyond getting as far from Marco as possible. "Thank you," I whispered. Daniel nodded. "You're going to be okay, Sophie." I wanted to believe him. He waited while I got out and found room 114. I turned back once before going inside, and he was still there, watching to make sure I made it safely. The room was small and clean, 2 double beds with floral bedspreads. I locked the door behind me and sat on the edge of the bed, the keycard still in my hand. On the back of it, written in pen, was a phone number. And underneath, "If you need anything." I plugged in my phone and let it charge while I lay back on the bed, my hand on my belly, thinking about the man who'd stopped when everyone else had driven past. I fell asleep like that, still dressed, the lights still on. I didn't know yet that Daniel wasn't just someone passing by. Didn't know that 3 months ago, his company had acquired the restaurant where I'd worked for 6 years. That the reason I'd lost my job wasn't Marco's sabotage, though that's what I believed when he'd whispered it to me in bed, making me dependent, making me his. It was Daniel who'd signed the restructuring order. Daniel who'd eliminated my position without ever knowing my name. I woke up at dawn with my phone buzzing. 7 missed calls from a number I didn't recognize. My first thought was Marco, somehow finding me. My second was that I'd given the motel clerk cash and a fake last name, so it couldn't be him. The number wasn't Marco's. I lay there for 20 minutes, my heart racing, before I checked my voicemail. "Sophie, it's Daniel. Your car got towed to Mike's Auto on Route 40. I took care of it. He says it's the transmission. About $1,200 to fix. I know that's a lot. Anyway, the number here is my cell if you want to talk about options." I deleted it immediately. Then I sat on the bathroom floor and cried. Because $1,200 might as well have been $12,000. Because I'd let a stranger pay for my motel room and now I was trapped here until Sunday with no car and no way out and a baby that would need things I couldn't afford. I'd thought leaving Marco would be the hard part. I didn't call Daniel back. Instead, I walked to the diner across the parking lot and applied for a job. The manager, a woman named Rita with gray roots and kind eyes, looked at me like she knew exactly what I was running from. "You got experience?" she asked. 6 years. Server and bartender. "Can you start Monday?" I almost cried again. "Yes." "Good. You can work the breakfast and lunch shift, 5 days a week. It's not much, but tips are decent." It wasn't much. But it was something. I walked back to the motel and called the auto shop. The mechanic, Mike, had a voice like gravel. "Your friend already covered the tow," he said. "But the transmission's gonna be expensive. I can do it in parts if that helps. Get you mobile first, then, how much to just get it running?" I asked. $300. "But it's temporary. You'll need the full fix eventually." "Do it." I'd make it work somehow. Sunday came and I had to check out. Rita let me rent a room at her daughter's house for $400 a month, cash. It was a basement bedroom with a tiny window and a hot plate, but it had a lock on the door and Rita promised her daughter didn't ask questions. I didn't see Daniel again for 2 weeks. By then, I'd fallen into a rhythm. Wake at 5, work the morning shift, come home and sleep, repeat. My body was changing. My uniform pants were getting tight. I'd started wearing my server apron higher to hide it. He walked into the diner on a Tuesday morning. I was refilling coffee at table 6 when I saw him, and the pot nearly slipped from my hand. Daniel was sitting in a booth by the window, wearing a different suit, charcoal this time, scrolling through his phone. He looked like he belonged in a boardroom, not a highway diner. I thought about hiding in the kitchen. Instead, I walked over. "Coffee," I said. He looked up, and his face did something I couldn't read. Surprise, maybe. Or something heavier. "Sophie." He said my name carefully, like he was testing whether I'd run. "Hi. You work here." "Started last week." I poured his coffee, keeping my hands steady. What are you doing here? Meeting. He gestured vaguely. There's a development project up the road. I'm consulting. Of course he was. Men who drove cars like his didn't just pass through places like this. They owned them. Thank you, I said quietly. For the motel. And the tow. I should have called to say that. You don't owe me anything. I know. But still. He studied me. You look tired. I'm fine. Sophie, I'm fine, I said again, sharper this time. He backed off, nodding. Okay. I took his order, eggs, wheat toast, bacon, and brought it out 12 minutes later. He ate slowly, reading something on his tablet, and I pretended not to watch him from behind the counter. When he paid, he left a $50 tip on a $14 check. I almost gave it back. Almost marched over to his table and told him I didn't need his pity, his charity, his guilt money. But I didn't. Because I needed it. Because rent was due in 3 days and my car was still held together with prayers and temporary fixes. I pocketed the money and hated myself a little. He came back 3 days later. Then again the following week. Always the same booth. Always a meeting, he said. Always that same careful way of looking at me, like he was trying to figure out a puzzle. You're going to make me fat, he said the 4th time, pushing away his half-eaten pancakes. Then stop coming here. Can't. Best coffee on Route 40. I didn't smile, but I wanted to. The 5th time, Rita pulled me aside. That man tips like he's trying to save you. He's not. She gave me a look. Just be careful, honey. Men like that, they're used to fixing things. And sometimes they can't tell the difference between helping and owning. Her words stayed with me. The next time Daniel came in, I didn't serve him. I asked Rita to cover his table. I watched from the kitchen as he looked around for me, his expression unreadable. He left another 50. I cornered him in the parking lot as he was unlocking his car. Stop, I said. He turned. Stop what? This. Whatever you're doing. The tips. The checking on me. I don't need you to save me. I'm not trying to save you. Then what are you trying to do? He looked at me for a long moment. The morning sun was behind him, making his face hard to read. My sister got pregnant at 22, he said finally. The guy left. She had no money, no job, nowhere to go. She ended up in a place like this, working herself to death trying to make it work. His voice cracked slightly. She died when my nephew was 2. Complications from an infection she couldn't afford to treat. My chest tightened. I was in grad school, he continued. Broke. I sent her what I could, but it wasn't enough. I didn't know how bad it was until it was too late. Daniel. So no, I'm not trying to save you. I know I can't. But I can make sure you have enough to eat. I can make sure your car is safe to drive. I can do the things I didn't do for Emma. The way he said his sister's name broke something in me. I'm sorry, I whispered. Don't be. Just let me help. Please. I should have said no. Should have kept the walls up, kept myself safe. But I was so tired of being alone. So tired of being afraid. Okay, I said. He smiled then, really smiled, and it changed his whole face. Okay. We started having coffee together after my shifts. He told me about his nephew, Connor, who was 8 now and lived with Daniel's parents in Virginia. Told me about the company he'd built from nothing. How he'd worked 3 jobs to put himself through business school after Emma died. I told him about Marco. About the way he'd slowly isolated me from my friends. Convinced me I was lucky he loved me despite my failures. About finding the money he'd hidden, the texts from other women, the realization that I'd spent 3 years loving someone who saw me as a possession. He doesn't know about the baby? Daniel asked. No. And he never will. Daniel nodded. Good. On a Saturday in late October, he drove me to a prenatal appointment. The clinic was 40 minutes away, and my car had started making that grinding sound again. The ultrasound tech smiled as she moved the wand across my belly. Want to know the sex? I looked at Daniel. He was standing by the door, hands in his pockets, looking everywhere except at the screen. It's okay, I told him. You can look. He came closer. It's a girl, the tech said. I watched Daniel's face. Watched something in him fracture and rebuild. We didn't talk on the drive back. But when he dropped me off, he took an envelope from the glove compartment and handed it to me. "What is this?" I asked. "Open it later." Inside was a check for $5,000. And a note. "For the baby. For you. Because Emma would have wanted me to. Because I want to. I called him at midnight. "I can't accept this," I said. "Yes, you can." "Daniel. Sophie, I need you to hear me. My company acquired a restaurant chain 3 months ago. Empire Hospitality Group. We restructured, cut positions to stop the hemorrhaging. I signed those orders." His voice was raw. "I didn't know you. Didn't know your name was on that list. But it was. And when I saw you on that highway, something told me to stop. Maybe it was Emma. Maybe it was guilt. I don't know." The room spun. "You're the reason I lost my job?" Yes. Everything clicked into place. The way he'd helped me. The guilt in his eyes. The tips that were too large, the motel room, the tow truck. All of it. "Sophie," I hung up. I didn't answer his calls. Didn't respond to his texts. Didn't go to the diner when I knew he might be there. Rita covered for me, telling anyone who asked that I was sick. Which wasn't completely untrue. I spent 2 days in my basement room, staring at the ceiling, the check on the nightstand like evidence of a crime I couldn't name. He'd cost me everything. My job. My independence. The life I'd built before Marco, before the pregnancy, before all of it fell apart. And then he'd found me broken on the highway and decided to fix it. Decided to ease his conscience by playing savior to the woman his company had destroyed. The fact that I'd let him. That I'd started to trust him. To need him. That hurt most of all. On the 3rd day, I went back to work. Daniel's booth was empty. Rita didn't mention him, just squeezed my shoulder and gave me the breakfast shift. I made it through on autopilot, refilling coffee, taking orders, smiling when I had to. My uniform was getting impossible to hide under now. The morning sickness had passed, but the exhaustion hadn't. Every part of me ached. I was wiping down table 9 when Mike from the auto shop came in. "Your car's done," he said. "Full transmission replacement." I only paid for the temporary fix. "Yeah, well. Someone called yesterday and covered the rest." He handed me the keys. "Said to tell you it's safe now. And that he's sorry." The keys felt heavy in my hand. "How much did it cost?" I asked. $1,500, after the parts. "But it's done. Good as new." I couldn't afford to be angry about it. My car had been dying. I'd needed it fixed. And Daniel had done what Daniel did. Solved the problem with money I didn't have. But that didn't mean I had to forgive him. I worked through lunch, my feet swelling in my shoes, my lower back screaming. Rita sent me home at 2. "You need rest," she said. "That baby needs rest." I drove home in my fixed car, and I cried the whole way. Daniel was sitting on the steps outside Rita's daughter's house. He stood when he saw me, his hands shoved in his jacket pockets. He looked like he hadn't slept. "Good. I'm not here to apologize again," he said before I could tell him to leave. "I already did that. And I meant it. But I need to explain something." "I don't want to hear it." "I know. But I'm asking you to listen anyway." I crossed my arms over my chest. "You have 5 minutes." He nodded. When I took over Empire Hospitality, it was hemorrhaging money. Badly. The previous owners had cooked the books, taken out loans they couldn't pay back, burned through investor capital. If we didn't restructure immediately, the whole company would have gone under. All 43 locations. 800 employees. "So you cut 100 of us to save the rest?" "Yes." He didn't look away. "I made the call that would keep the most people employed. I based it on seniority, performance reviews, location profitability. I didn't pick names out of a hat. But I also didn't know the people behind those names. Didn't know that one of them was trying to escape an abusive relationship. Didn't know she was pregnant and alone. Would it have changed anything?" I asked. "If you had known?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. Probably not. The numbers were the numbers." "Then why tell me this?" "Because I need you to understand that I don't help you out of guilt. Not anymore. He stepped closer, his eyes intense. I help you because I see you, Sophie. I see how hard you're fighting. How strong you are. How much you've survived. And I want to be part of that. Not as someone who owes you a debt, but as someone who cares about you. My breath caught. You don't even know me, I whispered. I know you worked double shifts while pregnant. I know you gave Marco's money back, even though you needed it, because it was stolen. I know you ordered the cheapest thing on the menu that first night at the diner, even though you were starving. I know you named your daughter already. He smiled slightly. You wrote it in the margin of the ultrasound picture. Lily. I'd forgotten that. I know you, he said softly. Maybe not everything. But enough. Daniel. I didn't know what to say. I can't be someone you fix to feel better about your sister. You're not. Emma is gone. I've made peace with that. His voice cracked. But you're here. And your daughter is here. And I'd like to be here too. If you'll let me. What does that mean? It means I'm not going anywhere. Whether you cash that check or not. Whether you let me buy you coffee or not. I'm here. As a friend. As whatever you need me to be. I looked at him, really looked, and saw the truth of it. The fear behind the confidence. The vulnerability he was offering me like a gift. I'm scared, I admitted. Me too. I don't know how to trust someone. Marco. I'm not Marco. Daniel's voice was firm. I have my own apartment. My own life. My own problems. I'm not trying to own you or control you. I'm trying to care about you. There's a difference. Is there? Yeah, there is. I thought about Rita's warning. About the way Marco had started. Helpful, attentive, too good to be true. But I also thought about the way Daniel had waited in the parking lot that first night until I was safely inside. The way he'd told me about Emma without making it my burden. The way he'd given me space these past 3 days. Even though it must have killed him. Okay, I said finally. But we go slow. As slow as you need. And I'm keeping the check. Because I need it. But I'm paying you back. Sophie. That's the deal. Take it or leave it. He smiled. Deal. We stood there on the steps, the November wind picking up around us, and I felt something shift. Not fixed. Not healed. But possible. Do you want to come in? I asked. It's not much, but I'd like that. I unlocked the door and led him down to my basement room. He didn't comment on the size or the bare walls or the hot plate on the dresser. He just sat in the one chair and let me make us instant coffee with water from the bathroom tap. Tell me about Connor, I said. So he did. And I told him about Lily, about the nursery I'd never have, the future I was trying to build from nothing. And slowly, carefully, we started to build something else. Something that looked like friendship. Something that felt like hope. 3 months later, Daniel drove me to the hospital. Rita came too, holding my hand through the contractions, while Daniel paced in the waiting room because I wasn't ready for him to be in the delivery room yet. But when Lily was born, 7 pounds and furious, with a head full of dark hair and my nose, he was the second person I called. He brought flowers. A stuffed elephant. And a college fund he'd started in her name. You didn't have to, I said. I know. He looked at Lily sleeping in my arms. But Emma would have wanted to be an aunt. And since she can't, I'd like to be the closest thing Lily has to an uncle. If that's okay. More than okay. He stayed until visiting hours ended. And the next day. And the day after that. 6 months later, I moved out of Rita's daughter's basement and into a small apartment 3 blocks from the diner. Daniel helped me move. So did Rita. So did Mike from the auto shop, who'd become an unlikely friend. I was building something. Not perfect. Not easy. But mine. Daniel and I still had coffee after my shifts. Still talked about everything and nothing. Still navigated the careful space between friendship and something more. I don't want to rush you, he said one afternoon, watching Lily sleep in her carrier. I know. But I need you to know that I'm not going anywhere. I know that too. And someday when you're ready, Daniel. I put my hand over his. Someday. But not today. Okay, he said. Not today. But the way he smiled told me that someday didn't scare him. And maybe it didn't scare me anymore either. I'd started with nothing. Less than nothing. I'd lost my job, my home, my sense of self. I'd driven away pregnant and alone, with everything I owned in garbage bags. And I'd been rescued by the man who'd signed the order that started it all. But here's what I learned. Being rescued isn't the same as being saved. Daniel didn't save me. I saved myself. He just made sure I had a safe place to land while I figured out how. That night, I sat in my apartment with Lily sleeping in her crib and Daniel's number still saved in my phone, and I thought about highways and chances and the strange way life circles back on itself. I thought about Emma, who I'd never meet but who had somehow led her brother to me. And I thought about Lily, who would grow up knowing that sometimes the people who hurt you and the people who help you can teach you the same lesson. You're stronger than you think. You deserve more than you've been given. And you don't need someone to complete you. But it's okay to let them stand beside you anyway.